Hi, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Erica Hellberg, and I work with NYU Stern's graduate business programs. And today I'm here joined by some incredible colleagues to talk to you about the part-time MBA at Stern. So I'm going to introduce my colleagues and then we will get right into the content. So first up, I'm joined by Gabrielle. Gabrielle is a vice president of deposits and lending business risk management at Citi, where she leads a product governance for Citi Global Wealth's deposit and lending products. Gabrielle started her MBA part-time at Stern in the fall of 2023 and is slated to graduate in May of 2026. It's coming. During her time at Stern so far, Gabrielle has been a co-block leader, AVP for the Langone vertical of the Sustainability and Social Impact Association, and is currently the VP for IDBE for the Langone Student Government. In her free time, I don't know where she has free time. Gabrielle loves to travel, to read, and to listen to true crime podcasts. I'm also joined by Derek. Derek is a senior project manager at Verizon, where he's led over $200 million plus of real estate development projects across the Northeast. Derek is a recent graduate. He finished up in 2023. And in his time with us, he served as Langone Student Government co-president and the VP of First Years. Now he offers insights to prospective MBA students as a Stern alumni ambassador. We're so lucky that he hasn't completely left us. And last but certainly not least, we have John Graham on the call. John is our director of part-time MBA admissions. He's been in higher ed enrollment for more than a decade and began his career at Columbia Uptown, but we are so thankful to have him on our team for the past few years, leading us in the admissions space. So thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erica.
Yeah, we're going to get started. John, I would love to know before we put Gabrielle and Derek on the spot, what do you think some common misconceptions are about applying to the part-time MBA program?
I think the biggest misconception I hear about from students is the idea that the part-time MBA is a very impersonal kind of program, that you just attend the program, you do your classes, you get through it, and then you leave. What I have found from students, just anecdotally, that it is an incredibly collaborative program. It is something where there's so much engagement, so many student clubs, so many activities. It is so much more social than I thought any kind of part-time program could ever possibly be. And that's one of the things I love talking about the most about it. It's just how this network, no matter even if you walk into it thinking, I'm not going to have a network, I'm going to do this and I'm just going to go home, it just happens because people at Stern are lovely and they work well together. And it is just a very, very harmonious atmosphere with a lot of opportunities to network and make friends. So I think that's the biggest misconception, is that that doesn't exist in the part-time program.
Thanks so much. So you teed it up really well to do a little bit of fact checking. So Gabrielle, you're in the program right now. You are very involved, but I would love to hear from you, your perspective on that collaborative nature and a little bit more about the student experience of a student.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think John hit it on the nail there. I also started my program, and I was very nervous. I'm in the online modular part of the program, and so I was like, I'm never going to make friends. Everybody's spread out all across the country, and the orientation was amazing. It was a great way to work together in person for 3 days and really get to know your cohort. And a lot of the people that I've met during that first initial interaction are people that I talk to regularly, and when we see each other in classes, we instantly connect to form a group, and it's just really great. Yeah, it definitely is what you make it as well. So I've tried my best to be very involved to get the full experience.
Amazing. And so, Derek, you've been out of the program now for 2 years. And, we talk a little bit about the collaborative nature while you're in the program, but what about afterward? Can you talk a little bit about kind of the Stern network and what that has meant to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably one of the most valuable parts of going to Stern is not just the classmates that you get to know and become friends with while you're in the program, but the entire alumni network that it opens up to you, during and after the program. And I would say that it's best evidenced by um, some of the conversations that I've been able to have with people specifically in my industry, in the real estate industry, that went through Stern, maybe even 5 or 10 years prior to when I was in school, and them being warm and open to having those conversations, whether it was a career discussion or maybe even for a potential job opportunity, because we shared that commonality of both going to Stern.
So you touched on real estate, and I want to know, Stern has so many specializations. What did you choose while you were here? Or what was your elective journey like?
Yeah, so I think that's something that a lot of prospective students probably spend more time than they need to worrying about prior to starting the program. It's a question that I get a lot as an alumni ambassador. What should I specialize in? And I think the beauty of the program is that it naturally points you in the right direction. You get to start the program taking a lot of those core requirements. And based on your experiences in those core requirements, you get a better sense of what might interest you for the specializations. And so while I was in school, I predictably chose the real estate specialization. I also did the finance specialization. And I didn't really decide that right at the beginning. It was more my experiences in those core classes that led me to those areas of study. One of the unique and cool things about Stern too that I want to highlight is that because I was interested in real estate, and NYU also has a master's in real estate program that's at a different school, the School of Professional Studies. Stern allows you, while you're in the MBA program, to take classes at other schools within the NYU umbrella. And so I cross-registered for several classes at SHAC, which is the Master's in Real Estate program, where I got to really dig into some of the more technical aspects of real estate that I was interested in.
That is really cool. I think it can be a little bit overwhelming in a great way that we have so many specializations and so many electives, and then you can take classes at other schools on top of that. Gabrielle, you're kind of going through that now. How have you navigated
Yeah.
electives and specializations coming out of the core?
Well, I was definitely one of those people Derek mentioned that spends way too much time thinking about it when going through the application process. I thought I needed to know every single thing. I needed to know all the classes I was going to take. I needed to have my schedule planned out. And I learned a lot in the core classes of what I was really excited about, what I really wanted to dig deeper in. And so my specializations, they shifted a little bit. I am interested in taking more electives in the finance world and in the finance specialization. So, like, I would have never thought that in 2023 when I was applying. I was like, I'm only going to take the core class. I'm not going to dig deeper. My finance professor was amazing and made me fall in love with it. And so, like, very excited to take more classes. But I think it is just thinking about what you want to get from your MBA and like what you want to dig deeper into. And that's the question I kept asking myself of like, what got me excited about the core classes or what did I want to learn more about? And maybe your specializations won't change and you put a lot of thought into them and you're really thorough, but um, almost everybody that I've talked to, like their specializations have shifted a little bit.
And what's great is that the program is flexible and gives you kind of both paths. You can double down and really sign up for what you sign up for at the beginning going into admissions, or you can pivot and make some changes along the way. So, John, both of our folks who have been in the program shared that you don't have to think about that as you're going through the admissions process, or maybe that's not the most important thing to focus on. What do you think is the most important thing to focus on if you had to drill it down to one thing in the admissions process?
I would say the most important thing to focus on is what your short-term career goal is. And that's one of the reasons why we explicitly ask you to let us know what that is. The reason I say that is because our goal is to help students achieve their goals. And a part-time program can really help you make a lot of changes in your career. It can help you advance. It can help you with entrepreneurship. But there are some very specific industries that are incredibly challenging to break into without a summer internship. And that's just not a feature of our program. And so when students ask, like, should I do part-time or full-time? I say, it's really all about what you want to do with your career. Think about what it is. Think about other folks who have done that, reach out to them on LinkedIn, network with them, and see how they got into that path. And if they said, yeah, you really can't do that without a summer internship, look into the full-time. Other careers are very variable. They hire when they need it. And so it doesn't matter what MBA you're in, you can always leverage the MBA and the brand that is Stern. And so I think that's the most important thing, is to think about what career do you want to achieve through this MBA? And that's really what you should be thinking about. And that should help you decide which program is right for you.
Thank you. So, Gabrielle, I'm going to come back to you. You're in the program right now. Have you already started to notice that career impact? Have there been any kind of moments where you've taken exactly what you've learned in class and applied it the next day?
Yeah, definitely. So I started the program and I was in HR, and I worked really closely with the Center for Working Professionals, and they helped me with my resume, interview prep, and I saw that direct career switch because now I work in risk management, I work in wealth, so really exciting to see that come to life even pre like graduating. But then while I'm in the middle of this career shift, I'm taking things I'm learning from class every day and like sharing that with my team. Our ops management core class was like a class that I was like, every day I just learned this and like, let's implement this. And it was really cool. My team was coming to me with questions and I was like, not there yet. But it was really fun to kind of be the book of knowledge as I made a career switch. So it was interesting to see the value that I was able to add to the team from my classes.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think one of the great things about the core is that you are getting that well-rounded kind of business knowledge. You get ops and finance and marketing and all of those things. And then you can dive deeper and into those specializations like you were describing, but it gives you like a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Derek, what about you? Have you had any moments like that, either during the program or since then, where you think to yourself, wow, this paid off. I am so happy I did this?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple things I could point to. The first, I think back fondly on a public speaking class that I took in the communications department towards the end of the program in 2023, one of my last classes. And we basically spent every class giving a speech in front of the rest of our classmates, which was nerve-wracking, but also really, really valuable in improving different parts of your public speaking. We would record each of those speeches and then actually have to write an assessment for ourselves and sometimes of our classmates on how we did. And then it turns out that after I graduated, a few months later, I was selected by my company to give a speech at our quarterly about one of the projects that I was managing. And I found myself drawing on so many of those frameworks that we learned in the communications class to give that speech, which I'm happy to say went really well. So that's one obvious example. And then I would say the other pretty obvious impact that the program has had on my career kind of ties into what we were talking about with the specializations, where I think maybe another way of thinking about how to choose specializations is what it signals to people out in the industry you want to get into about what your interests are. So if you're looking to do a career pivot, I think it's really valuable to choose specializations that are in that direction if you don't have prior work experience in that area. And so the couple of months after I graduated from the program, I was looking to pivot into more of a real estate finance type role. And it actually, through the Stern Real Estate Club and, having those specializations on my resume and meeting and networking with some of I think it was the past intern for that company who was a full-time student, I ended up landing an internship for 7 months with a real estate investment company that I was, interested in getting some experience in that area from. And so, that plus the public speaking, I think, are probably the two most apparent ways that the program has had a positive impact on my career.
That's amazing. And congratulations to you both for having such great opportunities. I love to hear that they've been positively impacted by the part-time MBA, of course. So you both talked a lot about kind of reflecting on your interests and your goals, and kind of, Gabrielle, I love that you said it is what you make of it, right? And so you can take the opportunities as they come along and invest in things that will help you reach your goals. We also ask that our applicants do a little bit of reflecting. And we get the question a lot, what do I write in my essays? That is a moment of stress. So John, on this theme of kind of thinking about why you're here, what advice would you have for our applicants?
Anytime you have to write an essay where you have to explain why it is you want to go somewhere, I always think of I do this for cover letters, I do this for my own graduate school applications, but my template is always, where are you now? Where do you want to go? And how can this program help you get there? Where are you now lets us know what it is that you're doing, but also you can sprinkle in some of those quantitative achievements that we say strengthen a resume or strengthen an essay. The where do you want to go is where you can really narrow in on that short-term and long-term goal and let us know precisely what it is you want to do. And then the how can Stern help you get there? It lets us know that you've done your homework. Maybe you can draw to certain clubs that you feel like will really add value, certain electives, maybe there are professors, but gives you an opportunity to explain a little bit about the research you've already done about Stern and shows us that you've done your homework. And then once you get here, you're going to thrive. You're going to hit the ground running. And that's really what we want. We want people to thrive when they get here. And so that just shows us that you've done the necessary work to be able to do that.
So there are 2 essays, I think. And the other one is person, place, or thing, which takes a little bit of a different tone than what you described. And I think, should our person, place, and thing be Warren Buffett and the trading floor, because we're applying to an MBA? What's your advice for that one, which is a little bit different?
I think the people who treat the person, place, and thing essay as a way to impress an MBA admissions committee miss the mark the hardest. I honestly, that essay is as much for us as it is for the student. The short-term and long-term essay, it's logistical, it's cut and dry, it's very much like any program will ask that of a student, of an applicant. What the person, place, and thing essay does is give us a window into your actual personality, what it is that like makes you you. And so I think the more authentic you can be, the better. The only thing that I can think of that is, people ask constantly, what are you looking for? What are things that I should avoid? The only thing I would avoid is just making it like uploading literal pictures from your phone into the application portal, because it just looks very weird. You can copy and paste it onto a document and upload it. That's the only thing. It's a formatting thing. But like who you choose, like do you. It can be, I've seen many grandmothers, I have seen Warren Buffett, I have seen Taylor Swift. It can be whatever you want it to be. And so I think you should have fun with it. And more often than not, it's the person, place, and thing essays that kind of made me chuckle, that stick with me the longest. So you can just be yourself. And if you yourself are someone who is like, I am MBA and I'm going to do finance pictures and I'm going to do a bar chart, like that's cool. That's totally fine. But I think you can also use it as an opportunity to showcase something different about you that makes you unique, if that exists.
Well, as a Swiftie, I love to hear that. I'm curious, Gabrielle, Derek, do you all remember what your person, place, or thing is? Gabrielle, we'll start with you. Do you remember?
I think my person was my mom, which I feel is cliche, but my mom has been my best friend forever. I know my thing was wreaths. During COVID, I picked up making like wreaths and I was selling them. It was like a little business I started for myself. But it was also like a way for me to get creative. And so I know that that was my thing. I don't have time to do it anymore. And then my place is Puerto Rico because my dad is Puerto Rican. So love going there and listening to the water and being
Yeah.
calm, which doesn't happen often.
Yeah, especially while you're in classes and balancing all of that. Derek, do
Yeah.
you remember what your person, place, and thing were? It was a little bit longer ago.
I don't, because I don't think that was the question when I applied. They actually
Okay.
changed it from when I applied. I think when I applied it was pick 6 or something. John, maybe you remember what the previous one was, and it was, you know, in a similar spirit where you had to upload 6 pictures of things that related to you, and it was pretty open ended where you could pretty much upload pictures of anything. The only one that I do remember was that I uploaded a picture of cookies that I had made. One of my hidden talents is that I bake. And so I wanted to show the admissions staff that I was an avid baker in my free time.
I love that, and I'll be visiting New York soon, so I will let you know my favorite cookie types.
Perfect.
I will also share for folks on the call, I actually am a part-time student as well, and I wasn't going to reveal that, but here we are. And my person, place, or thing were my person was Dolly Parton. I didn't pick Taylor Swift for that. My place was the Blue Ridge Mountains, where I'm from. And my thing was books because I'm an avid reader. But I think it's important for anybody going into the admissions process to know that there's not a right answer, right? It can be books or wreaths or cookies. It can be your own mom or Dolly Parton or Taylor Swift, whoever, whatever really kind of makes you who you are, I think is pretty important, to echo what John said. Um, so pivoting just a little bit, because Gabrielle, you mentioned that very limited resource of time. How do you balance everything? Working full time, studying part time, going to the grocery store, fitting that in somewhere. How do you balance it all?
Yeah. And I think that was a big worry for me as well, because I am the type of person that loves to give 100% to everything that I do. And adamantly, you are going to have to be really like, you're going to have to stick to a schedule. And I became best friends with Google Calendar, Outlook. I just have like 8 calendars that are all synced. And you prioritize what's really important to you. And I know one semester I was taking accounting, and I'm not an accountant by any means. And so that class did take more time outside of the classroom. And so unfortunately, I did like have to not hang out with my friends as much and make a couple of sacrifices, but it is really all about reevaluating your time. And I am a little bit of a nerd where like on Sunday I like to think about my to-do list for the week and my priorities and like what is top priority, what can I get done really fast. And so it's just being organized, I think, that has been really helpful for me. And you have a lot of road bumps the first semester because you're just starting to juggle school with work and life. But after the first semester, it gets a lot better, I promise.
Yeah, there's definitely an adjustment period. And Derek and I were chatting about this a little bit before the call. Um, you have a lot to balance, but then what about after classes? Derek, can you talk a little bit about the transition of being a student and having that in your life, and now what?
Yeah, I think I don't want to say PTSD because it wasn't a negative experience, but you sort of have like this shock that you're done after you graduate from the program. And then, you know, because most people that go through an MBA program are type A, and they want to stay productive, you end up finding that you're filling that time with other productive things. For me, it was really digging into my job search, which is what ended up leading to that internship opportunity that I mentioned. And then also, catching up maybe with people that you weren't able to dedicate as much time to while you were in the program. But yeah, there's plenty to keep you busy afterwards. I think that's probably the least of people's worries. And I just wanted to piggyback off of what Gabrielle said and add a few additional insights that I have from when I was in the program. I think one thing that's important to do before you start the program is to have a conversation with your leadership at your company. Since you're still going to be working full time, letting them know, what your schedule is going to be like, and making sure that you have, at least some support from them. And if not, adjusting the schedule that you take on accordingly. And then also what I like to tell students is when you start the program, assume that each class that you take will have assignments that will take up one other night of your week. So if you're taking classes on Monday and Wednesday, then assume that you'll need to be doing work for those two classes on Sunday and Tuesday. And I think that's a pretty good guideline for figuring out what the workload will be like.
Yeah, that's definitely really helpful to kind of think as you're planning it out, and really fitting this into most MBA students are already busy before they start the program. You talked a little bit, well, and you both are very involved. What has been, if you had to boil it down, like the best experience in the part-time program? Has it been a class, an event, a particular club opportunity? Gabrielle, we'll start with you since you're still in the program. Has there been like one standout moment?
Yes. So I think for me, I'm trying to think, there's so many, I'm sorry, but I think my favorite one was being a co-block leader with one of my really close friends now. I just attended her wedding, and that was really great because we were co-block leaders for the online modular program. And so that adds another layer of how do we build a community with people spread out across the entire United States. And so we worked really hard on building a really amazing community with like virtual events. We did Jeopardy, which was really fun. And then we obviously got together for dinner and like a holiday happy hour situation. And that has to be that was all in the first semester too, which was, like, very stressful, but that had to be, like, the cherry on top of the first semester was, like, building great relationships and building that community, because it proved me a little bit wrong, and I was like, "Yay, I am gonna have a wonderful experience." Even in the online program, you make, like, a lot of friends and great relationships. That's why I do think it is, like, what you put into it is what you get out. Um
Yeah, absolutely. Derek, reflecting on your time, was there one standout moment that you're like, wow, that was just incredible?
There really, really, really are a lot. So it's hard to pick just one. I think because I had a little bit of a unique experience in the program. I started February of 2020, so it was a month before the pandemic. Probably the thing or time period that I remember the most from the program was the first semester where we had classes back in person and starting to resume a lot of the stuff that I had experienced for that first month that was then, obviously shut down because of the pandemic. So fall of 2021, when I was the VP of first years and organizing a lot of the block games that first semester students go through, and getting to know so many of those incoming students, that's probably the highlight for me.
So, Gabrielle, this is back to you, and it kind of relates to what Derek shared about starting in the pandemic and then going back in person. But you're in the online modular program, and so how has that been? How have the classes delivered online been? What's your experience like with that?
So I took all of my core classes online and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The professors were around for office hours, so it didn't the only thing you really miss is that human interaction of going into the Stern building. But I mean, if you I would say if you're interested in the program and you are located in California, like go for it, because that is really the only thing that I feel is missing. Like you're not lacking, like the professors were all amazing. And you are able to build like friendships and you're able to build connections, but it is a little bit more effort, right? Because it's not like right after class you can go grab a drink or like before class you can get a cup of coffee. It's more of like, oh, we have to put a little bit more effort into, scheduling a Zoom to meet for a project and then, continuing to talk via Slack and being really active in all of Stern's Slack channels. I think I joined first semester, I think I joined almost every one. And then I had to sift through because I was getting endless notifications. And so it is before I joined Stern, I attended a session that John held, and somebody just kept saying, like, if you want to get XYZ out of the program, then you have to also give that type of energy. And so I knew I wanted to come in, I wanted to have a memorable experience. At the time, my job was I was traveling all the time and I couldn't commit to in person. And so I just like fully threw myself into everything I could. Um, and I have had nothing less than an extraordinary experience so far. And you can also still take classes in person later on, like electives and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think one really interesting point is, if I'm not mistaken, you're based in New York, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
still doing the online modular program, which gave you that flexibility, it sounds like, in that heavy travel period.
yeah, yeah, of course. And there, surprisingly, when I was block leader, about 1/3 of our online modular and like Navy block was based in the tri-state area. So it you're still able to meet up with people. It's just doing a little bit extra work. It's not as like simple as, oh, like right after class, a group of us are grabbing a drink. It's just a little bit more work, but I promise it's not hard and it's not like an obstacle you can't attain.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm guessing, Derek, your experience might have been a little different because COVID changed everything. But what format did you choose, or what format were you in?
So I started the program in the Monday, Wednesday weeknight schedule, taking two classes a semester. And then, those classes just switched to online for the year or so of the pandemic. And then, I would say as you get further into the program, that Monday, Wednesday schedule sorts to shift around, and you might be doing Monday, Tuesday, or, Tuesday, Wednesday, just depending on when the classes that you're interested in are offered. It's really more for the core requirements that you're making that selection.
And John, we have two other formats that Gabrielle and Derek weren't in. Could you just touch a little bit on what those are and what the differences are?
Sure, absolutely. So Derek mentioned that he's in the weeknights program. Gabrielle mentioned she's in the online modular program. Both of those options typically meet 2 times or a week. So you're taking on average like 2 classes per semester. And that gives you about usually 3 years to finish it. That's the average length of time it takes for a student to complete the program if they're doing that 2 nights per week kind of schedule. We have students who want to do it faster. So the 2-year accelerated program allows somebody to do it in 2 calendar years. I want to mention that all part-time students go year round. There's no like summer off unless you deliberately decide to take off. But the 2-year students essentially are taking 1 additional class per semester. So usually 3 classes per semester. And that speed allows you to do it in about 2 years' time. The other option for somebody who really doesn't have any weekday availability is the Saturday option. And so essentially you go from 9 to 4, I believe it is, on Saturdays with like a 1-hour break. So you're doing 2 classes per semester as well. They're just back to back, all on a Saturday. And so in total, we have 4 options. And so what's nice is, as they mentioned, during the second half of the program, you can really mix and match. You can take online and in-person classes. You can ballot for a Saturday class if it's something that you want to do. I've even heard of students who have taken daytime electives because they really love the professor. It was an opportunity to take a class with that professor, and they just, worked with their employer to make it happen. And so it can be very flexible and can be tailored to very much what you want it to be, especially towards the latter half of the program.
Amazing. Thank you. So we've talked a lot about your time in the program, Derek, your time after the program. We've touched on admissions, but I really want to know, how did you get here? There are so many MBAs out there, and there are so many questions. Do I do this full-time, part-time? There are executive MBAs in the world. What drew you to Stern? How did you wind up on this call with me today? Really, I would love to know kind of that very early part of your journey. And this time we'll start with Derek.
Yeah, so I think probably a few reasons, and it might have even changed, or I realized it changed while I was in the program. I think one of them, which is way more qualitative, was just I felt like where I was in my life, I wanted to expand my friend groups and the people that I rub shoulders with. I was living in my hometown at the time and was ready to get out. So going to New York was a good excuse to do that and do it in a way that was also helping my career. I was pretty adamant about an in-person experience, and NYU offered that. So that was another appealing part of the program. And the more professional side of things was that I wanted to keep my current career track. I didn't want to have to quit my job and spend 2 years just doing school. I was happy with where I was at in my career, and I felt like I could keep my momentum at work if I did, a part-time program as opposed to a full-time program. So that, I would say, that combination of things is what led me to NYU.
Absolutely. And Gabrielle, what about you? What initially brought you here?
Yeah, I think completely agree with Derek. So I think I was also in a phase of my career. I really enjoyed where I was working, enjoyed the company I was working at, but I knew I wanted something more and was thinking about like long term, what do I want my career to look like? So I do think when you're thinking about applying and you're going through the application process, it is really great. And I think for me, it was pivotal to lean on mentors that I met at my company, mentors that I kind of forged along the way in my career. And so leaning on mentors to kind of career map and think about, what do I want to get from my career? How could this program really help catapult me into the next phase of my career, or even, help me make this pivot that I likely wouldn't have been able to make without, the help from Stern and the interview preparation, but also just really thinking about, in 10, 15 years, how am I going to look back on this experience, and what can I take to help me get there? So echoing everything Derek said, and then adding just a little bit of career mapping and leaning on mentors, especially early on. And you're sifting through all of these programs and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. That is very reflective. And I think your mentors can only guide you a certain way, but you also need to be able to get to that point yourself. So I spent a lot of time also reflecting on what I felt would benefit me the most. So I am happy with my decision.
Amazing. I love to hear that. I'm so glad. So to kind of wrap us up here, right? As other prospective students are considering the program and they can think about convenience and being in person and getting to the city and talking to their mentors and things like that, if you had to give one piece of advice, or if you had to share one thing that you wish more people knew about the program, what would that thing be? And Derek, Gabrielle, I'll give you a break and we'll start with John, and then come back to you both.
The thing I wish people knew more about are the experiential learning opportunities, honestly. I think they can be incredibly impactful. These are essentially, they're electives, they are credit bearing, but for those who don't know, like, the experiential learning opportunities at Stern allow you to solve a real world problem for a real company. So you are getting to use everything you have learned in your MBA program, and you are presenting it to key stakeholders at some of the most major organizations in the world. Places like Citibank, places like Amazon, BMW, IBM. And so it just is an opportunity for you to really show your skills. It's also an opportunity for you to try something new in the safety of an academic umbrella. So it's an internship to an extent, but you don't have the pressure of getting that return offer. You're really trying it out and you're saying, do I want to do consulting or do I want to do brand management? So it's just an awesome opportunity for you to be able to do that and really give it a try, which I think is rare for a part-time program. The other thing I wish people knew more about is the access to classes once you graduate. You actually get free classes once you graduate. I don't know if Derek, but like you should be getting a list of about 20 or so electives that you can virtually audit every fall and spring semester for free. And so that allows you to just continue to hone your skills and make sure that what you are offering to your company is relevant and is reflective of what's happening within the industry at large. Additionally, you also get executive education classes for free. So if you ever want to get a certificate, I'm sure most people after an MBA are like, please, I know I never want to go to class again, but like you can if you want. And then additionally, you have career services forever. The careers team for working professionals, which Gabrielle talked about working with to make her pivot, they are there for you until you decide that you don't want to work anymore. So I think that that's really cool too.
Yeah, wow. There are so many great opportunities and resources. Derek, if you do get bored, take some more classes. John, just a quick follow-up about the experiential learning piece. You had mentioned some opportunities to work with companies and whatnot. Are there opportunities to study abroad? Because it's a part-time program. How does that work?
Absolutely. So I would say the most popular way to study abroad for the part-time population is through the DBI experience, that stands for doing business in. And so they're 1 to 2 week study abroad opportunities. And you learn from an MBA program that's local to the region. You'll also go on corporate presentations and you'll meet with alumni who live there, but you also get to absorb the rich culture of the area. So you can go to places like Costa Rica and learn about business, sustainable business, or you can go to Milan and learn about, I think it's luxury merchandising. And you can also go to London or Buenos Aires or South Africa. Copenhagen is actually a spot that's for part-time MBA students only, because you are the only population at Stern that goes to school in August. So if you want to spend your August in Copenhagen, that's totally cool. And you can do that. And then oddly enough, like part-time students are actually allowed to do full semesters abroad as long as their company is cool with it. So we've actually heard of students who have done an entire semester at the London Business School. It's by far the most popular one. So it's like it's a competitive application process to do that. But like if you want to do that, you can if your company is okay with it. And because work has changed so much since the pandemic, it's honestly a real viable option for folks now.
That's so cool. I have worked here and I did not know that.
You are permitted. You are allowed to do that, and they do approve
it. Okay, so we got some great information from John as the Stern professional representative. But Gabrielle, Derek, what is one thing that you wish people knew, or one piece of advice going into the process that prospective students should think about? Gabrielle, you're up first.
Oh, always putting me on the spot. I think having a clear picture of what you want to get out of the program, but then also being open-minded, allowing yourself to explore while you're here, because I don't think that while going through the application process, I even understood fully the resources at hand, and I'm still learning the resources and taking advantage of absolutely anything and everything, saying yes to just about everything that came my way. My first year was really beneficial because, one, I built connections with my classmates, but also it opened me up to different fields that I might not have explored because I stuck to my plan or my structure that I built for myself. So, and allow yourself to have some fun as well, which is like a little hard because you're trying to do your best and show up in class and show up at work and then show up for the family and friends that you have that are screaming, please hang out with us. But yeah, allow yourself to have some fun because this is a really cool experience.
Absolutely. Okay, Derek, over to you. What's your one or multiple things?
Maybe I'll stick to two because again, this is one where you could answer with 5 different things. The thing that I think prospective students should think about the most is what makes NYU Stern's MBA program unique. And my answer to that would be location and people. So focus on the benefits that you get from the location that NYU's campus has compared to other part-time programs. If you're going to a part-time program, for example, in the suburbs, you're not going to have that same sort of social experience that you would in New York City. And then probably the other part of it would be, when you think about the value of a degree, it's not really about, the fact that you can put MBA at the end of your name and brag about that you got this degree. It's really about the network and the people that you rub shoulders with and that influence you. So much of the learning that I did in the program, it wasn't necessarily just in the classroom. It was also those conversations that you're having with other high-performing individuals in industries that maybe you knew nothing about, that really helped to build out your knowledge of the business world. People in healthcare or other industries totally different from yours. So focus on how you feel you are as a fit with the other people in the program. And I think my favorite part about Stern is they spend so much time in the admissions process focusing on you as an individual. And I think that really shows in the student body.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, all three of you, for taking the time to answer my questions. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot. It is much appreciated. And for anyone watching, Gabrielle, Derek, John, and I and our whole team are here to answer questions, to make the application process really accessible and really demystify it. It shouldn't be a scary thing, but an exciting one as you get to take your first steps toward getting your MBA. So thank you all again. And thank you to our viewers for watching. And I wish you all the best of luck as we're heading into a weekend. And best of luck to anyone applying. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.